Welcome in, Sideline Sports Show. Glad to have you with us on this lovely Thursday night, Tim. We're back from what has been an absolutely crazy past 2 weeks because of
It
Hurricane
has.
Ian.
Yes.
Last week, we had to move high school football up one day. You were producing, if I'm correct. I was actually broadcasting the game. So last Thursday, we were crazy doing high school football. It was absolutely insane. And it got dropped as soon as I got done with our interview with Bryce Kuhn, which was absolutely incredible. If you didn't check it out, go check it out on Podcast Land, the Sideline Sports Daily. And then the Thursday before that, we were preparing for North Greenville taking on Finlay. And I
For
think
some
I was,
reason, I wanted to keep calling him Flagler because I never.
yeah,
Out of habit, I had to catch myself a couple times. I was like,
I
okay,
almost
it's
wanted
not
to call
Flagler,
him.
it's Finley.
No offense to them, but I almost wanted to call them Find Lay. Like the whole time, just the way it's spelled Find Lay. Like,
Yeah.
so it's very confusing. But Tim in the process has enjoyed some incredible church softball, and this dude should have got steroid tested before he got done.
Oh
Because
man,
this dude hit a bomb, like at least I want to say like 50 yards from the fence. Like, I mean, it's over the fence and it's 50 yards down the road.
well, technically, it was underneath a tree, and it hit those trees there and died right there.
Oh, okay. So it could have kept going. You're saying it's
Yeah.
like 100 more feet. Okay.
Yeah,
He
somewhere
should have
there.
been steroid tested.
Hey, I got a hold of it. I will say, and that was last week. This past week, I ended up playing in 2 games. Played for the men's league, hit 2 home runs in that one, and then hit 2 more in the co-ed team I played for on Tuesday night. So hey, I'm just saying, your boy's got 10 home runs in 7 games.
Look, I'm telling you,
fall. So
Tim is. I will say this: Tim has looked really good in your workout progressions that you've been doing. And fantastic job. But I think it's really helping him hit dingers in these church softball leagues. So if you want to play church softball, go to the same workout gym as Tim, and he can help you hit dingers.
Hey, I can hook you up with Kylie. She's my trainer, man. She's the one that's busting. So she's the one that's got me looking better, I should say, because I'm not gonna look great yet, but because
he's getting there. You're getting there.
I'm working towards it. I'm working towards it. So my goal is to get to 300-pound bench, but I got 25 more pounds before. So I'm getting close.
Tim, let's go ahead and break into the sports world. Obviously, we want to talk about one thing first, but Tim, I don't even have the music. I should have brought the music with me. But how about them Braves coming back, winning the NL East? Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead. I mean, and they secure a spot. They win their division, and they get the number 2 seed. They get a bye in the first round of the playoffs, and they automatically are in the NLDS. And let's look at this playoff graphic. Thanks to ESPN who put this together today. I just copied it and pasted it and stole it. So thanks, ESPN, for taking the time I didn't have to do. All right, so we look at the National League side.
Beautifully
the
done.
Atlanta Braves get the bye. They're the number 2 seed. Los Angeles Dodgers are the 1 seed, and the Dodgers will either have to play San Diego Padres or the booing Mets, who are still in disall of everything that's happened in the past week and a half.
LOL Mets. Goodness gracious. Yeah. Of course, the 1 year, the first year after they take out the game in which there'd be 163, would there actually be a tie in the division. And of course, it's the Braves and it's the Mets that fall by the wayside. All they had to do was win 1 game in Atlanta.
That's it.
And they couldn't do it. They had the tiebreaker. And ultimately they would have ended up winning in the first place outright had they won 1 game. Crazy.
That's all it took.
Hey, and C-Dog makes a good point, but if you want to put that up there.
I got you.
The Mets totally did not choke. He's absolutely right. They won 101 games. I think I saw something. I mean, it's hard to beat a team when I saw this at one point. I think they went like 78-34 over 102 game stretch, man.
Yeah.
From the top, that was their record on June 1st when someone in the media called the NL East race over. Yeah, we all know what a clown that guy is, but
it's over.
It's over. The teams aren't going to compete. Well, and then of course the Braves decide to go 78-34 since then. So they played absolutely ridiculous. Mets played pretty well. They played good enough ball in order that if you had told me that they'd had that record, I believe it was 50 and like 30 something. I have to look back on that one.
Yeah,
50 and 40 or 60 and 40, something like that. They played really good ball over that same stretch. The Braves just played out of their mind. I mean, we talk about it. The Braves could have set so many records had they not gotten off to that slow start, that 23 and 27 start. They get off to about a 27-23 start. I mean, they're pretty close to the Dodgers, in my opinion. Like, if they could have gotten off to a little better start, couldn't have gotten to a point where they may have been 10 games over 500 instead of 4 games under. Man, they really could have had a historic season, could have gotten that top overall spot. But, they did get off to that slow start, but they were able to overcome it. I mean, anybody they brought up, Michael Harris, that dude provided a spark. Von Grissom.
Amen.
I mean, all these guys just any person Alex Anthopoulos traded for came in and provided something. I mean, Raciel Iglesias, the dude had over a 4 ERA with the Angels, comes in. He is unhittable with the Braves right now. I think he's got a 0.8 ERA for since the time he's come to Atlanta. I mean, Jesse Chavez. I mean, we guy that we ended.
Let's talk about Jesse Chavez.
Yeah, part of the package.
Bravo.
I mean, dude, the Braves traded for him from the Cubs. They get him from the Cubs. Then they trade him to LA for Raciel Iglesias along with Tucker Davidson.
And then you bring him back.
Yeah, they bring him back, and then they designate 4 assignments. Like, all right, hey, we'll bring you back again. And of course, he comes back into a Braves uniform, and he's almost unhittable. It makes no sense. Robbie Grossman had a lot to do. I mean, goodness gracious.
And that's what I was going to talk about. That's the unbelievable thing with Jesse Chavez. This dude literally, and I'm not trying to be rude, I think he'll admit this himself, but I think he purposely tanked in Chicago to come back to the Braves, worked out in his favor. Then they trade him to the Angels. He tanks there, and he's like, hey, I just want to come back home to Atlanta. You saw the Braves fans on Twitter when he got waved off from the Angels. They're like, hey, we want this dude back. Go get him. And what have the Braves done since then? They went and got him. He's been so productive out of the bullpen. I don't know what it is. I think he just likes wearing a Braves uniform. I really do. I think he is very dominant in Atlanta. I think he loves his staff. I think he loves this group of guys. And it's been very successful. Exactly. It's been very successful for him in his career.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just something about that clubhouse, man. I don't know whether it's Kevin Seitzer with the hitting, because, I mean, as soon as Robbie Grossman came to town, it took a dude that just could not hit. And he, for a while, he was looking like, oh my gosh, this guy might start in the playoffs for us. Now, not so much now, but still, he was hitting at an extremely high level. I mean, pitching coach Rick Kranitz, I don't know what he's done. Every time that guy comes in from somewhere else, he struggled a little bit. He takes him in and turns him into a lights out the whole league.
Pitching. Yeah,
it's like he's got a sub-1 ERA. Like, where did this come from? Like, and this guy's batting, he's batting a $150 with this team. He gets traded to Atlanta. All of a sudden, he's batting 300. How did that happen? I don't know. It's just something with Alex Anthopoulos and his staff. They work together. They do it each and every year. Last year was the first sign of it really coming to fruition. And this year, man, they've done a great job. They got 101 wins, man. And the Braves just look absolutely fantastic. And again, you got to keep an eye out on the Cardinals. You got to keep an eye on them. Yeah. I think that'll be a dangerous matchup should they get past the Phillies, which they should. Again, they got to keep an eye on the Phillies because they've got a powerful punch in Wheeler and Nola as well. So should be an interesting series. It should be fun. Whoever they face, obviously, if you're the Braves, you want to face the Phillies because you have much more familiarity with them. And it just then again with the Cardinals, it almost have a revenge factor because of 2019 being in the back of our minds. Everybody remembers. Everybody remembers Game 5.
2012.
Oh gosh, the infield fly that was that was in left.
That wasn't an infield fly. Yeah.
No, everybody was like, "What the heck?" And they were throwing balls out in the field, so it was like, okay, that's a little much. Look, you can't condone that, but at the same time, it was like, come on, like it felt like for a while we were just cursed as any Atlanta sports team until last year. So we finally
did it. Yeah, we did it. We finally did it. So anyway, let's look at the rest of this bracket. Let's look at the AL side. Yankees get the 2 seed, and Houston Astros are the 1 seed. The Astros, they'll probably face either Toronto or a very surprising Mariners team. And then you got the Yankees who have been on ESPN watching Aaron Judge try to hit his 60-second home run every week. On college football, you never know. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, everybody's trying to just wanted him to hit it, and it took him to the second to last day of the regular season to finally do it. Wow, it was great for baseball. I think everybody can finally just sit back and be relieved that, hey, we won't have it be cutting into our football.
Exactly.
Thank goodness.
And then finally, last but not least, the 3 seed is the Guardians. I almost said the Indians. I'm sorry.
I kind of forgot about them. Not gonna lie. I forgot they were just so quiet. The AL Central was just so bad this year.
Yeah.
Of course, Cleveland had a little bit of a late run towards the end, but definitely felt more like NL East vibes from last year. But hey, so you got to keep an eye on them. The NL East vibes from last year, the Braves ended up going all the way. Now, a little bit different this year. They got to go through the wild card before they get to the DS. So we shall see how that turns out.
All right, let's go ahead and make some predictions on this, Tim. Let's go ahead and figure out who you like. I'm going to throw this up there for you. Let's start at the top right. Obviously, the Braves, they get a bye, but they have to take on the Phillies or the Cardinals. Who do you got, Phillies or Cardinals?
This is a very interesting matchup. I love it because the Philly arms, they've got a couple bats. Obviously, they got Bryce Harper, Hoskins, Real Muto, all those boys. But Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola in a 3-game series, that's going to be interesting. And then the Cardinals, of course, you got Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright. Those three, basically the three amigos, the three musketeers.
Yeah.
Their last ride, you would hope it wouldn't end like that. But it's one of those things where things have got to come to an end at some point. Now, will it come to end in the wild card? I don't think so. I don't think there's any way that they lose at home. And because, again, if they all 3 games, if they able to play 3 games, if it got determined to that, will be in St. Louis, and they will be the home team. So I think that'll give them the edge. I think the fans over there in St. Louis will be enough, and I think the Cardinals win the wild card and will move on to face the Braves in the NLDS.
Yeah, I have more excuses on how the NLDS and ALDS will turn out, other than the wild card. So I'm just going to give my predictions and then explain it when we get to the NLDS. I'm going to go Cardinals. All right. Los Angeles Dodgers, they get the bye. San Diego Padres and the New York Mets, Tim. Who do you have, the Padres or the Mets?
Wouldn't this be something just to root for this to happen, just to see Mets fans explode with anger and just seethe? Oh,
Frank the Tank.
Oh, my goodness, dude. If you hadn't followed him on Twitter, keep track with him. He basically called it. As soon as the Braves went on that 14-game winning streak at the beginning of June, he was like, oh, boy, this is going to happen. We're done. We're not – everybody's like, what are you talking about? Now, like, they're still the best team in the National League. He's like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Sure enough, the second to last series of the year, they kind of choked it away. So, but overall, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. But, again, that's just going to be one heck of a pitching match. I mean, you got Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, and I just blanked up Musgrove going for the Padres. Yep. And then you got DeGrom, Scherzer, and Bassett, 3 of the best pitchers in the game so far this year. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Offense is going to be at a premium, but I got to go Mets because I really, really want to see a Mets and Dodgers NLDS. I really want to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mets too, but like I said, I have more explanations in the NLDS and ALCS than I do in these wild cards, so I'll explain it once we get to that point. All right, New York gets the bye. The Guardians and Rays. I'm going to go ahead and just start this off. I'm going to take the Guardians to beat the Rays.
Actually, I'm going to go with the Rays here. I think that they pull it off. Guardians, not great this year. I mean, then they played in a weak division. And they had a nice surge at the end where they pulled away from the White Sox, winning it seemed like every single game they played against Chicago there for a little while. But, I mean, Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. They're always tough. Yeah. They're a team that if they get into the postseason, watch out. They can make a run. So, and I think that scrappiness, I think that's going to prove to be too much for the Guardians.
All right, let's go down to the bottom of this. Astros get the bye. Mariners and Blue Jays. I'm going to take the upset. Give me the Mariners. I think this is a team who has a lot of – their ceiling is very high right now. Like, they could go a long distance in this postseason. They got the offense to do it. It's the pitching that's really the question. Do they have the pitching to go all the way? That's going to be the big question for me. But I think they can get past the Blue Jays because they are very similar teams. But I think the offense is better, in my opinion, for the Mariners right now than the Blue Jays. So give me the Mariners.
And this is kind of one of those things where do I think with my brain or do I think with my heart? Yeah. My heart wants me to say Mariners, but my brain tells me Toronto with all that talent that they have, that home atmosphere in postseason baseball. Do you remember the last time when Encarnacion, Bautista, I think Donaldson was still there.
Yeah,
that was electric, man. That was something that we're going to see again tomorrow. And
but is COVID regulation still a thing up there in Canada?
No, actually, no. They recently took those away. So the vaccination status, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's no longer an issue on the border. So it may be an issue coming back into the United States, but going to Canada, I think that is no longer a problem, fortunately. So it should be a great series. Everybody should have who they have and should be at full strength as well going into that wild card series. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But I just got to go with my brain and got to go with my gut. And I got to say that Toronto wins this one. And large part has to do with the fact that it's going to be at home at the Rogers Center.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and pick the NLDS and ALDS as well, because those games will already be started before we film the next episode.
This is where it gets fun.
Yeah, this is where it gets fun. Braves Cardinals is who we both have, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. I would love to play the Cardinals because of this. Like I said, I have a lot more explanations for this than I do the wild card. I would love for the Braves to have this revenge tour against the Cardinals more than playing the Phillies. The Phillies don't have a lot of playoff experience. You're seeing guys that are getting playoff experience for the very first time. And you can exclude Bryce Harper, but, I mean, a lot of these other guys have not had that playoff experience. So if they played the Braves,
Schwarber's been there, though.
Yeah, but a lot of the other guys have not. So
True.
I think the Cardinals have a lot more experience. They have a little bit more depth than the Phillies, and I think they could go a little bit further. But I would love to see the Braves knock the Cardinals out in the NLDS and take on either the Dodgers or the Mets, who we'll pick in just a moment. So give me the Braves to win that series because it's going to be fun. I think this could go the full 5-length game or the 7-length game. I think it's 5 in the D. Yeah, 5. I think this could go all the way to 5 because the Braves are so well rested and the Cardinals are coming off a momentum where they just played 3 straight games because this could go to 3 games for them when they take on the Phillies. So give me the Braves in 5.
Ben, it doesn't happen much, but we agree.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go 5, and I think the Braves are going to win in 5 as well.
Yeah.
Look, playoff atmosphere. I mean, you look at the regular season between these two teams. I know it's regular season, but at home, the Braves went 3 out of 4. Arguably could have won all 4 games.
True.
Cardinals, again, the Braves dominated game 1, and then the last 2 games, Saturday, they straight up threw away. Jansen just did not look good at all on Saturday. And Sunday, they had to lead in the 8th inning in that one, and then just a solo shot and then a 3-run homer, and they were out of the game just like that. So they were in those games as well. So I could definitely see a Braves maybe even sweeper even in 4, which would kind of not be good because I have too much respect for Albert Pujols, like Yadi Molina, those boys. I got too much respect, and I wouldn't want them to go out like that. So I think ultimately, now with the way Albert Pujols has been swinging the bat, man.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, no one saw him going on this kind of hot streak. Yeah, I know. It's just like, pardon me, the question is like, hey, did they steroid? I'm kidding. I'm not going to go there. I'm just messing. But yeah, he's been hitting like the machine from 10, 15 years ago. So it's exciting to see, but with the potential matchup looming for the Braves, it's also a little scary. So, but I could definitely see us going 5. And he also, I mean, the Braves, look at their rotation. Max Fried,
exactly.
You're probably going to get Spencer Strider back. I mean, again, with a week off, he's very close to saying he's going to begin throwing again here shortly. So hopefully he's back. Maybe, honestly, if I'm the Braves, obviously Fried's going to be game 1. I throw Kyle Wright game 2, and here's why. Kyle Wright, much better. He's fine ERA on the road, but at Truist Park, he's a whole different animal. I'd rather have him start at home when, again, getting some experience. I know he started last year in the World Series, but he's got much more familiarity at home on his home mound. So I'd put him at number 2. I'd go Strider at game 3, and then I'd go Morton game 4. And then we kind of fill in after that point. So I could definitely see that's how I kind of think the Braves would line up rotation-wise. That's how I do it. We'll be interested to see how Brian Snitker does it. But I just think the Braves have too much, man. The offensive firepower, guys, 1 through 9, every single person has a chance to go yard at any point.
Exactly.
And they just got so much power, home runs, and good pitching. Here lately, at least, play very good in the postseason. So I got to go Braves. I can see 4, maybe even 3. Depends on how because I'm assuming one of the starters is probably not going to have the best game, and the offense is probably not going to be strong all 3 games. But I look at it, and I definitely see the Braves coming out strong with this one. Unfortunately, sending Yadi Molina, Albert Pujols, and Adam Wainwright into retirement.
Well, in 2012, they sent Chipper Jones into retirement with an infield fly. We can at least send them home on a bad note, too. So,
Return the
revenge,
favor.
revenge.
Return the
Yeah,
favor.
return the favor. Return the favor. All right, let's go down to the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Mets in the NLDS. Here's my thing. If those three pitchers that you mentioned between DeGrom, Scherzer, and
Bassett.
Bassett, excuse me, if they go early in those three games, who's going to be their 4-5? Or unless you're just going to throw DeGrom back out there for game one
I
off
mean, they do have
maybe a
Carrasco.
couple
They do
days
have Carlos
rest.
Carrasco.
Yeah.
So, and he's pitched well when he's been healthy.
But now you're getting the Dodgers' best pitchers versus your 4 guy who you would normally have. So that's the disadvantage right now for the Mets. So give me the Mets. Not the Mets. Excuse me. Give me the Dodgers. Because I almost slipped up there. Give me the Dodgers because the Mets will have to play their main important pitchers in Game 3, maybe Game 4. They may even put DeGrom back in Game 2 off about 4 or 5 days rest. But who knows? We'll find out. So give me the Dodgers. And I would say it's a 5-game series. Give me the Dodgers in 4.
So I'm going to make the case here. Lay this out.
Okay, go ahead.
Say the Mets win in 3 against
Okay.
the Padres. That's Sunday night. NLDS will begin Tuesday. They have an off day. So you'll get DeGrom on Friday, Scherzer, and then Bassett Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Think about it. If you make it through that, and you win in 3 games. If you win in 2 games, it's much easier.
Exactly.
But if you win in 3 games, you send Carrasco on the hill Tuesday. Okay? So that DeGrom, that's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday off. That's 4 days rest. DeGrom's more than capable of coming back from 4 days rest. You send him out there for game 2 in Dodger Stadium. At that point, all you're really trying to do is split in LA. You split,
True.
the home field advantage is on your side. So honestly, I think that the Mets have a decent formula here. Ooh. If they can get through that wild card round, I think that they definitely have the pitching to go through that Dodger lineup. Now, it's not immune. Just ask the Braves this past week. They beat all 3 of those guys, hit multiple home runs. 2 of those guys hit 3 home runs off all 3. Yeah. So just ask them. It's not invincible, and I think the Dodgers could work things out. But I mean, DeGrom against everybody else doesn't seem to have a whole ton of issues. So you could definitely work things out to where you have DeGrom and Scherzer going back to back right there and being up 2-1 going into game 4 in New York. And so, I mean, if I'm looking at it like that, I'm looking at things, the way things line up, and you have Bassett on the hill to potentially close out the Dodgers in 4 at home. I like it. And we saw it last year. The Giants won 107 games. Now, they played the Dodgers, who won 106. But they got knocked out in the NLDS. So it's more than capable of happening. I love the Mets in this series. Just the pitching matchup just is too much for me. So give me the Mets in 4. And give me the Mets in 4.
God, the NLCS, Braves and Mets. Oh, man. You want to talk about a rivalry relived. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, I know. That would be amazing. And I remember, wasn't it NLCS in 99, I believe it was, where the Braves walked off the NLCS on a walk or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Ben and I were very young, so my
memory we were very young. So
very, very, very fit.
We barely remember, guys. Sorry. So, all right, let's walk through this AL side quickly. I got the Guardians and the Yankees. I'm going to go Yanks just because they have a better talented team than either of these 2 teams. So, Tim, give us your thoughts. Yankees and Rays for you. Sorry, Hunter. I did see he did say this, and I'm going to, look, here's the thing. He said, you better cheer for us to beat Cleveland. So
I picked y'all to win. Ben did not.
I did not.
Ben did not.
Sorry.
I picked him to win.
So go ahead.
Give us your split here, Hunter.
Yeah, give us your thoughts. Yankees, Rays.
Again, Rays just always seem to be that scrappy team that they win games, and it's like, how are they doing this? I mean, you guys like Randy Rosarena, Choi. I mean, these guys are very, very talented, and man, they're just so scrappy. The Yankees are the Yankees who, before, was it August, were like, oh my gosh, this team could set all kind of records.
Yeah.
They had to scrap and claw and eventually get to 100 wins. They went through a really rough stretch where they played worse ball for about a month. They were worse than the A's and the Nationals did. It was like,
Yeah.
what happened to this team? But they seem to kind of sort of right the ship. They're playing a little bit better ball here of late. They clinched the AL East. I see this one going 4 or 5 games. Like I really do. And I got to go with the Yankees. I think they get through.
Oh, you missed it by a second, Tim. You missed it by a second.
Hunter,
as soon as you made the pick, Hunter was like, "Hey, I picked the Rays and I'll buy you a Clemson jersey."
I missed out on an opportunity there.
It's okay. All right, final one that we get to pick from, and it is the Astros and Mariners, Tim. And I think you picked the Blue Jays, if I'm correct. I'm gonna go. Obviously, Astros. They just got a better team than the Mariners. I love the story of the Mariners this year. They've been phenomenal, but I think that's where their journey ends in this MLB playoff.
Yeah, and I think the same thing happens for the Blue Jays as well. I think they go take on Houston, and I think Houston's too much. Justin Verlander, I mean, you got all those boys. I mean, they got some horses out there on the mound for starting pitching, and then their bullpen's not too shabby either. So,
yeah,
there's a reason they won. What was it, 106, 107 games, somewhere along those lines? I don't know the exact total, but they won a lot of games. They're really good. There's a reason why they're second in the power rankings right now behind the Dodgers. They're a really talented ball club, and for good reason. I think they make it to the ALCS and setting up a very interesting matchup with the Yankees. I think a lot of people may remember the history that those two teams have in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here's what we're going to do. That is the end of our MLB talk. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. On the other side, college football, we'll break down some of the AP poll and what we agree with and what we don't agree with, and then we'll also give our picks of the week presented by our great friends at Section 103. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back in Sideline Sports Show. And Tim, I wanted to make one case about this AP poll before we jump into picks of the week. And let's go ahead and look at it real quick. Obviously, some noticeable names. Georgia drops down to 2. Alabama moves to 1. Tennessee up there in the top 10. You're very high on Tennessee. They're up there.
What did I tell y'all? I told y'all about Tennessee. I tried to tell y'all. Y'all told me I was a madman. You told me I was a madman. Look at me now.
Look at that.
Get back to me in a couple weeks after they played both Georgia and Alabama. All right.
True. All right. So, but they did knock off Kentucky. So Kentucky falls to 13. You're going to see Oregon kind of creep back in there at 12. Wake Forest at 15. NC State drops to 14. Then you start to see some noticeable names, Tim, that you have not seen on this list all season long. TCU at 17. UCLA at 18. Kansas at 19, Kansas State at 20, Washington at 21, Syracuse. Yes, we're not talking about basketball. We're talking about football. Syracuse at number 22, Mississippi State at 23, Cincinnati at 24, and then LSU at 25, Tim. And you're shaking your head. Tell us why you're shaking your head, Tim.
If you'd have told me 2 months ago that in 2 months, Kansas would be inside the top 20, and Syracuse would be ranked as well in the top 25.
And you're not talking about basketball.
And I'm not talking about hoops. Not talking about that at all. And you're telling me game day's going to Kansas?
Yeah.
Willingly?
That's right. That's right.
Willingly? They're going there for a game that's a highly anticipated matchup?
Between top 25 opponents?
I mean, what is going on? I mean, you told me DJ Uiagalelei would throw for over 300 yards in a game. I'd have looked at you the exact same way. I mean, it's all madness happening around the college football world.
I'm telling you.
You have Georgia that looks so good in their win over Oregon. They dismantled. I mean, they quacked on the Ducks. They absolutely just ripped apart the Gamecocks.
You're right.
I mean, cockadoodle, bye-bye. I mean, goodness gracious. 48-7. Should have been 48-0.
True.
And then they come out. They scored their season lowest points at the time against Samford, and then they didn't look good against Kent State, I believe it was.
And then they barely squeaked by Missouri.
And that's what we're getting to next. They barely squeaked by Missouri.
No. I will say you had the absolute tweet of the week, Tim, and you were so close to it becoming true. You said, if you would have told somebody that Georgia almost lost in Columbia, and then what was the next part?
I was trolling some Gamecock fans and Georgia fans at the same time. I posted this in my group chat on GroupMe for my church group that I'm in.
Yeah,
and, there were only a couple people responded. I think all the rest, everybody else was just like
somebody shared it, and that's how I saw it.
Yeah, that's right. That was my boy Avery. My boy Avery. He's a Clemson
Avery.
fan. That's why he shared it. He's a Clemson fan. But I shared that. At least someone has a chance to win in Columbia tonight. Or this season. So of course I went there.
This season. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I went there. Some people just can't handle the smoke. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. But here's what I wanted to point out about this, and you can look at it one more time if you want to. But I want to talk about LSU at number 25.
Yes.
And here's why. Florida State has the exact same record as LSU, but somehow, some way, LSU is still ranked above Florida State. Tim, tell me how you feel about that. Is it an SEC bias? Because that's how I feel, honestly, right now.
That's what it feels like.
That's what it really feels like. It's like, because you play SEC opponents, that means you have a better resume than everybody else. And here's Florida State, who no one believed in, and everybody thought Mike Norvell, hey, he's on the hot seat again. And now he's turned this program into a 4-1, 5-1 squad. Or excuse me, they lost their first game the other night to Wake Forest, who is a very quality opponent. Ask Dabo Swinney.
Yeah. I tried to tell you that Wake Forest was good.
So this is a very, very good Florida State team. So they're not ranked above LSU. So what is your thoughts on that?
I think I'm going to tell you the reasoning why they did it, and then I'm going to tell you why it's garbage. Okay? The reasoning is LSU had a come-from-behind win against Auburn on the road. Now, Auburn is trash. Okay, let's be real.
Amen.
I think Brian Harsin's focusing more on his girlfriend than riding her out of town with her than he is actually winning football games right now.
Oh man.
Okay, so that's not that big of a deal. At Florida State, of course, and they're like, Florida State lost, so it's just kind of like, it's circumstance. LSU won on the road. Florida State lost at home. It's like, hey. Two completely different opponents. One did not look good against not a good football team. The other had a come-from-behind effort, fell just short against I'm going to tell you right now, I think Wake Forest is a top 10 football team.
I 1,000% agree with you.
Questions on defense? Absolutely. But their receivers are elite. And I was like, people are like, Clemson secondary is getting burned. There's a reason why they're getting burned. Of course, these guys are inexperienced. But A.T. Perry and those boys are outstanding. Sam Hartman, the fifth-year senior, there's a reason why people are considering him to be in the Heisman running. The dude is elite. So the fact of the matter is you can't compare those two. And they're like, we don't want to put FSU in the top 25 after a loss. So we've got to put someone there. So let's put LSU. Let's give another SEC school in there. And it's bogus. It's full of crap. I hopefully, if I'm not mistaken, Florida State plays NC State this week. So they'll get their opportunity. They're playing a top 15 opponent. Some may say overrated. I think more so the fact of that their offense was just not suited to go against that Clemson defense. But overall, I think Florida State will have a chance to prove. And if they beat NC State, they're definitely going to be in the top 25 this time next week. So
absolutely. So, and I agree with everything you said. I don't even think we have to cover more. So let's go ahead and let's get to our picks of the week presented by our fantastic friends at Section 103. And I don't know why Tim's doing a drum roll.
I'm ready for our picks. What do you mean? Oh, okay. What do you mean? Why am I doing? I was doing a drum roll.
Okay, fine. All right. Here's a game that we would not actually think would be a game, but now is somewhat a game, Tim. Mm-hmm. Our first game to pick from is the Dukies of Duke at Georgia Tech this weekend. Duke is 4-1, lost to a very good Kansas team. I can't believe I'm saying that. Those words are coming out of my mouth. And Georgia Tech went on, and I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth. Georgia Tech went on the road to number 24 Pittsburgh and won the game. So, Tim, give us your pick on who wins between Duke and Georgia Tech.
I mean, was Jeff? Did they just hate Jeff Collins so much?
I don't
they
know.
Just refused to play for him. Then they come out there on the road at Pitt. It was on the road, right?
It was on the road.
My mind was elsewhere on Saturday night.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, yeah, they must have hated that guy.
I guess so.
They came out and played their tails off as well. Duke, surprising, obviously lost to Kansas. Still not a huge believer in them, to be honest with you. So
I don't
this
think
is this is. I don't even know. This is like I don't even know how to describe it. This is like
just
getting. Hey, do you have a choice here? If you had the choice, would you rather date this ugly girl or this ugly girl? And it's like, can we just have a draw and say no? And I can say that as a guy that's not that attractive as well either. You know, it's fine. It's what it is. It's just like, I think I'll pass and I'll pass there. Can I just do somewhere in the middle? Can we go back to the old times where they just tied? Is that possible? Anyway.
I guess so. I don't know. Anyways, but you got to pick. Duke
I don't know. Georgia Tech, just because they seem like they're playing with their pants on fire. So I don't know.
Okay.
That's the best I got, Benny. That's the best I got. Hey, this is what happens when you try to do a show and you're a little bit sleep deprived. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. All right. Here's the thing for me. Duke is a very good program this year, and I can't. These words coming out of my mouth make absolutely no sense. Don't know how the words are even coming out of my mouth. But Duke is somewhat a good program this year in football. I don't know how. Don't know how it happened. Georgia Tech, it looks like all they had to do is fire their head coach, and they're somewhat relevant. And I don't know how that works. But Brent Key's doing a fantastic job with this program since he's taken over as the interim. And I think he's going to try to fight for a head coaching job at Georgia Tech. And in order to do that, you got to get a win Saturday. So give me Georgia Tech at home for homecoming weekend in Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. And I don't – Georgia Tech hasn't won back-to-back games since Paul Johnson. So that's going to be tough, but give me Georgia Tech at home in a very close one. All right, let's go to the SEC. Don't know why we're even talking about these two teams either, but Tennessee at LSU. Do you think Tennessee struggles at LSU?
I think it'll be a close game. I do. I think it'll be a very close game, but I think Tennessee will pull it out in the end. I think LSU is not a top 25 team, if I'm being honest. So give me the Volunteers.
All right. I'm going to go the same way as you. We're going to agree on that one. Tennessee. And like I said, I think they'll play close. Tennessee's defense is struggling. Like, they cannot stop anybody to save their life, and they're going to have to do that Saturday before they get to these tougher opponents, like you mentioned, Georgia and Alabama later on in the year. And I can't even believe we're talking about these two teams because especially you dissed on one of these teams, but actually you dissed on both of them. TCU at Kansas.
Oh, boy.
Because remember, you said TCU has the new SMU coach coming in, and then you're like, they're just going to be crap. Like, it's like a year or so to...
I don't remember saying that, So.
Go back. We'll look it up.
Ben's like, check the VOD. Man, last week was surprising, to say the least, to Brent Venables' defense over at Oklahoma, giving up 41 points, I believe it was, in the first half alone. I mean, had a ton of offense on. TCU just looked – I can't tell if it was TCU looking really, really good or Oklahoma just looking really, really bad, or a little bit of both. It's really tough to tell, but you look at things and TCU is really, really good. Like, surprisingly, I will admit that they're a very good football team right now. Going to Kansas, I don't know what to expect. I mean, if Kansas plays like they did last week against Iowa State, granted, Iowa State has a really solid defense, they're going to lose. And they should have lost that game. Had Iowa State not missed 3 field goals, obviously, they win that game. Kansas isn't unbeaten no longer. So it's a cool story. Now, unfortunately, I got to say, I think the Horned Frogs get them. I think TCU gets them this week, and I think they hand Kansas their first loss.
Tim, I don't think we've ever agreed 3 in a row, and I think we're going to do it today. Give me TCU.
Oh, wow.
And
that means we're going to be both wrong.
Somehow, some way. Duke will win. LSU will find a way to win because we talked so much crap about them. And then TCU will end up losing to Kansas somehow, some way. Who knows? But kudos to Kansas. They've had a great year. They've sold out their past 3 home games, done phenomenal. but I think it ends here. All right.
What an improvement, by the way. Just a couple years ago, they literally stormed the field after they barely beat an FCS opponent. Just a couple years ago, I believe it was 2018. Yeah. They beat an FCS opponent by 3 points. Stormed the field because they were so happy they finally won a football game.
And you know what's crazy? They beat Texas last year. Now have already surpassed their win total from last year. And they're not even halfway through a season yet. So kudos to them. So, all right. Red River rivalry, Texas at Oklahoma. And it's not really at Oklahoma. It's just Oklahoma's the home team this year. Dylan Gabriel's questionable, but Quinn Ewers is back for Texas this weekend. So give me Texas. I'm going to go Texas in the Red River rivalry because of the fact that Brent Venables has not shown up on defense the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to agree with it. As you mentioned, Dylan Gabriel questioned this one. Not sure if he's going to go. Quinn Ewers, I can't say his name. He's coming. Ewers. Thank you. He's coming back in the Red River Showdown. This is going to be fun. I think it'll be a little bit high scoring as well, just because Oklahoma still doesn't look like they can stop anybody. I think you got to give Brent Venables a couple years to get his guys in there, get his defensive personnel that kind of fit his style, that fit the pressure mantra, that just go attack. I don't think he has those guys right at the moment, so I think he's just trying to get through with what he has. And this year's kind of just don't embarrass yourself. Try to get to a good, decent bowl, maybe 9-3 year at this point. I think he can do it, but I mean, until he proves otherwise, man, I think I got to go with Texas. They've looked good against Alabama. You know, still look a little suspect in other areas, but overall, I think it's the lesser two evils here, and I think Texas will ultimately prevail. I think they're just going to look better on Saturday.
Man, we're agreeing with every pick. All right, Utah at UCLA. I'm going to actually go with the upset here. I'm going to go UCLA. And I think I watched them in that late game for some reason last weekend. They played Washington. Washington was everybody thought was a really good team. And all of a sudden they Washington walks into their stadium. They take care of business and they looked good doing it. So give me UCLA in the win over Utah this weekend. And that, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year, I would have told you that would have went the opposite way.
Yeah, I could see that. And now UCLA has surprised me. They really have. I think Washington was more of a factor. The Washington beat up on a Michigan State team that everybody overhyped. And Mel Tucker not looking great in his second year, by the way.
No, not.
From this standpoint, I think Utah is just going to be too much for UCLA. So I think in the first chance where we disagree now, Ben, I'm going to have to go with Utah.
All right.
Got to disagree at some point.
Yes, at some point. All right. BYU at Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I don't know what happened on offense when they played UNC, but it looked like they just came to life. I don't know. And we mentioned in UNC's defense, we've talked about it on the show multiple times. It's been horrendous. Their defense showed that, especially in that Notre Dame game. Who do you got, Notre Dame or BYU?
For simple fact, this is in South Bend, correct?
Yes, South Bend.
Now, I know that didn't matter much against Marshall, but
you got a point.
But BYU, this is going to be a very interesting football game. I think this is going to be along the lines of 27-24, but I think Notre Dame's finally maybe starting to turn a corner just a tad. And hopefully I should say, because Marcus Freeman and company, this is a really good football team that he inherited. So the pressure's on him right now. And I think he's going to turn things around. This is a game that they really don't need to lose. Again, it's a BYU team that's not bad. They're a really good team. They're definitely worthy of being ranked in the top 25, but this is a team that Notre Dame definitely should be able to beat. If not, Marcus Freeman's going to have some serious questions coming his way from some very powerful people there at Notre Dame.
Yeah, all right. Finally, the last game, we talked about this team a little bit earlier in the show. Florida State at NC State, Tim. Who do you have in that one?
This one's tough. NC State really, truly, all year hasn't really impressed me that much. Because you look at it, the first game of the year against East Carolina, they only won that game because East Carolina kicker, I don't know if had money on NC State or what, but I mean, just flubbed an extra point that would have tied the game. Again, they beat up on a bad UConn team. They played one of the worst teams in the Big 12 right now in Texas Tech. and then they did not look good at all last week, to be honest. They had a few moments here in the first half against Clemson where they were like, okay, this is the spark. This is the team that's going to take over and going to march down the field and impose their will. And Clemson didn't happen. Their offensive style is just not exactly what's going to be very successful against Clemson's defense, especially with the front seven that those guys have. Now, with that said, the front seven's not the same over at Florida State. They've gotten off to a really good start, but that's just it. It's just a start. Can they maintain it? They looked really good, in the second half. They did not look good at all in the first half, especially the defense. I think some turnovers kind of put their defense on the heels as well. So if they can avoid turnovers, they'll be right there in the game with NC State. With that said, I think NC State bounces back, and I think they are a good football team. I think they're the third best in the Atlantic, which says a lot because the Atlantic is really loaded this year. I think overall, I think NC State's going to prove that they're better than Florida State. I think it's going to be a highly competitive ball game, definitely within one score. But give me the Wolfpack.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to go opposite, Tim. I like Florida State, and I think it's just because you've seen the improvement of Jordan Travis from last year to this year. And I know that Mackenzie Milton was the big story last year, and he was going to be the guy that would come back and make Florida State relevant again. No, Jordan Travis says, you know what? Even though there's quarterback competition, I'm going to win it no matter what. He wins it at the end of the year. You've seen the progressions that he's made with this offense this year, and they look a lot better than what a lot of people predicted them to be. And I think this is probably Clemson's last great opponent to play in the rest of their season. You look down the road for Clemson, this is the only question mark left on Clemson's schedule right now. And for them to continue that success and have a shot to beat Clemson, you got to win this game. And I think Florida State walks in to NC State and beats NC State at home. So give me Florida State in a barn burner. I mean, it's going to be an incredible game to watch. So give me Florida State in a close one. Very, very close one. You looked very questionable about that.
Oh, I was, I'm just, I am thinking, I'm just.
You're like, hold on. That's questionable.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And the fact that the job that Mike Norvell's done has been remarkable.
Yeah.
He really has turned his program around this year. Like you said, he was on the hot seat. It wasn't really, really hot.
It wasn't Jeff Collins. He's on the hot seat, or like Brian Harsin on the hot seat, but he's definitely.
Yeah,
he was definitely on the mediocre. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Florida State's really, really good. I think they're going to be a tough test for Clemson when they come down there in 2 weekends. So should be interesting. But overall, I think Wolfpack prevail. But they got to adapt on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, the amount of times that they love to run screens. Yeah,
sure, I will agree with that.
It's just one of those things, but it's like, all right, you're going to have to adjust a little bit now. And if you think
it's like
Devin Leary,
it's like running a high school offense. Like they just love to throw the screen plays and get about 5-6 yards and just keep doing it every play. That's Florida State offense right now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that is our picks of the week presented by our great friends at Section 103. And if you want to go check them out, go to section103.com. You can use 10% off your first order using the code Sideline at checkout. So make sure to go check them out. Section103.com. And then last but not least, make sure to go follow us on all of our social media platforms. Sideline Sports Show. It's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. But when you go to Twitter, because of the 40 characters, you're going to have to use Sideline SP Show. So make sure to go check us out on all social media platforms. And Tim, that will do it for today's show. Any final thoughts before we head into the weekend? Other than me saying one thing, but I'll let you go first, Tim. I'll go last.
Okay, best for last, there, Ben.
Yeah,
yeah. Just overall, I'm looking forward to football, man. We've got some Thursday night football as well. Should be interesting. Overall, good football weekend. We got postseason baseball starting at lunchtime tomorrow. Best time of the year, man.
True.
Postseason baseball. It is impossible to beat those atmosphere. And if you hadn't seen the atmosphere of the Braves versus Mets series over there in Truist Park, it has me really thinking, I should definitely take some of my savings and go to a game, that I have in my savings account right now. Just kind of put some of that aside and let's go. You know what? I want to go to a game just so I can experience that atmosphere, just because I wasn't able to go to a regular season game this year. Just put some money aside and put it down to see if I can go to a Braves postseason game, maybe with the NLDS, NLCS. So it should be interesting. And I'm just looking forward to seeing matchups and see who the Braves play on Tuesday night.
Absolutely. So there's only two things I want to cap off with. Obviously, North Greenville Athletics, who we call Games
Yeah.
for, posted something today.
I know where you're going with
Davis
this, yeah.
Heller was a first baseman who just transferred into the NGU baseball program, died in an off-campus situation. So we pray for him and his family during that time. And then here in Georgia, there was a player at former Prince Avenue Christian Academy down in Athens, Georgia, transferred over to Jefferson High School, who was shot and killed at outside of the Gwinnett Mall in Beaufort, Georgia. So, and his name was Elijah Dewitt. So we pray for them and their families as well. And that's one thing that we want to make sure we stay intact with the sports community, because I mean, we call NGU athletics. I call high school games. I've seen Elijah Dewitt's name. Dude had 1,000 yards receiving last year, was on the way to do it again this year for Jefferson High School. And unfortunately, those events will not allow him to continue to do so. So we pray for both of those families from the NGU community and the Jefferson and Prince Avenue community as well. So that is the one thing that we want to do before we wrapped up the show, and our thoughts and our prayers are with all the families of those athletes.
Two young souls gone way too early, man.
Yeah,
way
absolutely. So I know it's not the way you wanted to end the show, but at least we get postseason baseball tomorrow. Cheer us up. High school football, we're in region play. I'm pretty sure you're in region play too up there in the Carolinas.
We are.
So it's getting close to time to playoffs, Tim. We're literally about a month away from high school playoffs kicking off, and it will be here before we know it.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to it. Definitely want to keep it. We have a region here with Boiling Springs, Gaffney, Dorman, Burns.
That's a tough region.
Oh, dude. I'm keeping an eye on that one. It's amazing that of those 5 teams, one of them's not going to make the playoffs. So it's going to be kind of crazy.
Now, I mean, that's the way our region is. And I'm not trying to be rude, but there's one team that, I mean, probably just end up 6, but the 1 through 5 slot for the rest of our region is wide open. I mean, it's insane. This region will be one of the craziest we've seen in Region 8 AAA history. So hopefully we can get it done tomorrow night against a very tough opponent. So, and go 2-0 in region play. That would be awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Sideline Sports Show. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you right back here next Thursday on the Sideline Sports Show.